Time for another episode of Council Bluffs Today, presented by Waldstein Plumbing. I am Todd Studer, and we've been talking RAGBRAI a little bit because it finished up a couple of weeks ago. Here's a couple of folks who are actually on it. This is Cole and Robin Epley. Thank you for coming in. Thanks for reaching out. I know I was just kind of throwing a fishing line out there online and saying, hey, anybody write RAGBRAI want to come on the show? You guys reached out and said, hey, we'd love to be able to do that. So thank you for that. So a little bit of your background, what's your day jobs and why interested in biking?
I'm an optometrist here in Council Bluffs. We've lived here since 2013. I'm not from Iowa originally. I grew up in South Dakota. We met at college in Lincoln, Nebraska. And when we moved back to this area, after we had gotten married, we said, we don't really, what do you want to buy each other for a gift after we get married? I don't really want jewelry. What do you think about bikes? We should start biking. I've heard people talk about this RAGBRAI and the trails, and I don't know anything about this. And that was just like the first jump into that. And now that's a huge part of our life. So I'm really glad that happened. So.
What did you think, Cole, when she said bikes? What was going through your mind?
Well, I was thinking the same thing because I was like, well, gosh, we just got like really nice jewelry and everybody saw it. Right. So, paying attention to just getting our bearings about the city. And we're like, seems like a really nice trail system. And I don't think we even knew about the Wabash at the time, but, we had seen paved trails. So we're like, okay, yeah, that sounds fun. And when we were in Memphis, we had done some rides around like the Beltway in the city, and it was fun. And I just was like, I loved riding bikes as a kid. And yeah, that seems like a great idea. It seems like fun. Seems like a great way to get to know the city. And little did we know that it was going to start this whole, sort of chapter era for us.
Did you know what you were doing when you went shopping for bikes, the research? Yeah. I mean, do you still have those same bikes?
We do not.
We do not. We bought them here in town, and the guy that sold them to us was kind of like, okay, these people don't know what they're doing. Here's a nice beginner thing for you. And then we ended up going back a couple years later and upgrading.
Yeah.
And we do still have those bikes. We have a few more friends in the garage now.
Yeah.
But
I crossed over 10,000 miles on that bike last summer. But the funny thing is about getting rid of the previous ones, they were like these hybrids, and they had a suspension fork on the front, which we don't have suspension forks now, but that just made it extra heavy. And we had gone over Memorial Day weekend, I think it was 2016-ish, and went out to the Raccoon River Valley Trail. And we started in Jefferson, and we're like, 70 miles, that'll be a good training route for RAGBRAI. Let's do that.
You're like, this is the longest we've ever ridden our bikes at one single time. Like, this is going to be great.
And so it was like 102 degrees that day.
Well, that's good training for RAGBRAI.
It was great training, but it was so hot, we got a little delirious midway, and I'm like, gosh, this is feeling really like the suburbs. And I'm like, why are we in Clive? So we had missed our turn to go north up the trail. So we had to double back. And we refer to that all the time now as the accidental century, because it ended up being over 100 miles. And that was, I think, maybe the last ride we ever did on those bikes.
We're like, okay, we're ready for better bikes now.
But having done that, though, and that was your really first long ride, right?
Yes.
And it sounds like that kind of inspired you to, okay, maybe we're ready for, something a little bit bigger.
Yeah, something a little more efficient, I think, is what we were looking at. And, the relationship survived that and many other misadventures on bikes over time.
It's a bonding experience.
It is. We haven't made the step up to a tandem yet, but we've been threatening it for years. And it's just something that, like, the more we do it, it's been a great way to connect between the two of us and just get on that same wavelength, which can take some time, when you're getting pulled in this direction for maybe family stuff and that direction for work. And obviously we each have, our own families and our own jobs that have different demands and things like that. So riding in general has been a great way for us to just level set between the two of us.
Well, let's talk this year's RAGBRAI, and we'll get to how it compares to other years. But I'm kind of wondering about this year. So you got started in Ottawa, and I'm trying to remember, did it start off hot because there was a couple of cool days.
It was beautiful the second half of the week. We had to get through the first few days, the first couple of days, but we stayed in our tents the first night and woke up a little warm and ready to go.
Yeah. But a very gracious host that gave us access to the house. I had woken up, I don't know, it was about 11:30, 12 o'clock. We had been sick with like this upper respiratory stuff the whole week prior. And I was having body aches and I felt terrible. And I'm just trying to like stay hydrated and recover so we can ride. And having grown up in that part of the state that we were going through, I'm like, this is going to be tough. It's going to be hot and it's going to be really hilly. But I woke up, it was like 11:30, 12, go to the bathroom and I'm like, there's no line here. So I turned on the shower and I took a shower because it was hot. It was really hot. I just felt this sheen about me. So I took a shower and I cooled off and then I slept really quite well. Kicked the crud a couple days later, but not before I sweated out what felt like half of my body weight.
So it sounds like knowing probably early on in your RAGBRAI career, if we can call it that, you may not have known that, okay, now's a good time. If there's no line at the shower, now's a good time. Yeah. Because a lot of tricks that you kind of learn over the years, isn't there?
Yes.
Oh, yes. We've learned from a lot of mistakes, like maybe don't take a bed pillow that's heavy and the humidity is just going to soak up and it's going to be 10 pounds. And these giant, I think our first year, we had no idea what we were doing. We took a bunch of heavy stuff. We had way too much stuff. And then we thought, okay, how can we make this better for next year? And we've just been I think we've got it figured out now. So we learn something new every year, but it's gotten better in 10 years.
For you guys, what are some of the highlights from this year's RAGBRAI trip?
Oh, gosh.
I think just seeing people that now, this being the 10th year, there's so many people that you don't intend to meet up with, but you just cross paths. You ride similar speed. You like to do, we like to stop at every slip and slide, and we like to stop and, hold baby goats and pigs and like just this weird stuff and people come up with some crazy things and you tend to see the same people all throughout that week. And we see people that's the only time we see them is on RAGBRAI. We have friends that we've made from all over the country that we don't even know their last name. It's just so-and-so that rides with this team.
But we know they had a kid, around RAGBRAI and they missed a few years. So we're like, how's your little girl doing now? And then it's like, oh, we have another. And we're like, you have two. But yeah, still don't know last names. But we have phone numbers and all that. So we meet up during the week if, we can't find each other. But you just get in that same sort of flow with people. And you ride hard and you have a good time, but you balance it all, and a routine sort of establishes itself, not only during the course of a day or a week, but now over the course of the year, and it just keeps repeating, and it's a really cool part of it.
Jason James, Yvette Perdue, and Jake Stander are JPS Realty Group, your friends in real estate, based in Council Bluffs and serving clients across Council Bluffs, Omaha, and beyond. They help buyers and sellers move forward with local knowledge and personal guidance from the first showing through closing. When it's time to find a home or sell the one you own, put the JPS team to work for you. Learn more at jps.heartlandproperties.com. When it's time for lunch, get away from the drive-thru and head to the Dock Bar and Grill in Council Bluffs. Whether you're hungry for a burger, sandwich, pizza, basket, salad, or just one of the daily specials, the Dock has plenty of choices and a comfortable place to enjoy a real meal. It's perfect for meeting friends, grabbing lunch with coworkers, or taking a well-earned break from the workday. Make the Dock your lunch destination. 401 Veterans Memorial Highway in Council Bluffs. Some meals feed the family. The right cut of meat makes them memorable. Rustic Cuts, Iowa's premier butcher shop, offers premium beef, pork, chicken, and specialty cuts, carefully selected and expertly prepared by their Council Bluffs team. Find the perfect steak for the grill. Stock your freezer with a meat box, or choose a gift card for someone who loves great food. Visit Rustic Cuts at 501 Veterans Memorial Highway, and then shop rusticcutsmeat.com.
When I first learned about RAGBRAI, I was in 6th grade, and it was just a few years into it, and our new art teacher at my tiny little school in Northwest Iowa had written on it and spelled out RAGBRAI. We didn't know what that meant or anything else, but I've known about it virtually my entire life. And the other thing that I know about it is that it has always been described as just a series of slices of pie.
Yes.
As you make your way across the state, because there's so many people out there that are raising money for whatever it might be going on inside of their towns, and pie's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pie, spaghetti suppers. There's like pickles, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts. I mean, it's so fun. And it's really, I think one of my favorite parts is when we talk to people from other states or other countries and they say, where are you from? And we say, oh, we're from Iowa. We're from Council Bluffs. And they say, wow, that's so cool. I'm so glad. Like, I'm so jealous that you are from Iowa. That's just a really cool thing to hear other people say.
So over the 10 years that you've ridden it, do you have a region like that? Because it varies from middle and north and south and all ranges in between. Is there a part of the state that's your favorite? For me, it's hard to actually choose. I've been all over the place, but I'm wondering, especially from a bike riding standpoint, is there a favorite lane or route that you would take?
I mean, this part of the state is gorgeous. The Les Hills area is just beautiful, challenging, but beautiful. But I really like being up in that northeast corner of the state too.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous, and that's not some place that, I mean, I'm not super familiar with Iowa geography on the eastern half, so that's what RAGBRAI is so exciting, that we get to see all these towns in these areas that otherwise we may be not going to.
Or we find places that we pass through and we're like, we have to go back.
Yeah, and then we go back
and we
in a car.
Yep. Or on a bike. The driftless for me is it, no doubt. A friend of mine and I did a bike packing 2 days up through the Yellow River State Forest last June. And, without having sort of like scouted it out on RAGBRAI, and even that was not enough to set us up for what we saw, but it was just this like bizarrely, seemingly out of place beauty. And then to have that as a motivator to learn more about like, why does the state look like it does in certain places? And the driftless, like maybe there's no better, aside from, the Les Hills, there may be no better example of just seeing these like geologic forces that did or didn't shape certain parts of the state. And to Robin's point, to go through these places that you wouldn't have gone through necessarily otherwise, it's just such a neat experience. And at that pace, there was a day, I think on our last day going, we were outside of Dubuque yet, but just like the hills look different, and you start to realize things like, no wonder Grant Wood, did what he did. I mean, you're seeing these vistas and I don't even take pictures because I couldn't capture it. It wouldn't do it justice. But like in my mind's eye, there's just an impression that you get, and it's such a great thing to take away.
It is a beautiful part of the state. My grandparents lived there when I was growing up, so I was over there once a year. And always, I mean, I'm sure as many times you've ridden RAGBRAI, you know where Strawberry Point is. And as soon as you make that turn to the north and east, now you're in the hills just that quick. And it was 11 miles to my grandparents' house from there, but it seemed like it took an hour because it was just so different than the northwest part of the state where I grew up, which is just flat. You could see for 20 miles, that kind of thing. So at this point then, RAGBRAI's done. Is it a recovery process when you wrap it up, or you pretty much back to normal just as soon as you get home?
We got smarter the last couple of years, and we've taken Monday off of work because we usually come back on Sunday, and then we have that day to do all the laundry. But usually at that point, I think we're like, well, let's go bike somewhere. We're in great shape. We're in the best shape we're going to be in all year. Like, let's go someplace.
Yeah, the metabolism goes, and like for me, like just being active generally is a way to sort of level set everything just in my head. And so I might be more motivated now to ride than I was, especially the week being ill before RAGBRAI. But again, it's just something that we really love to do. And, it might not necessarily get easier. You just go faster. And so riding around here is it's fun to get out and do what we've been doing. And then you're like, oh, remember when this was tough training in April? And now it's a breeze. And you just
don't need the pie every day.
Yeah, less pie.
We're not quite working it off anymore.
Yeah.
Any bike trips already on the calendar for the rest of the year? Or you're still kind of scouting things out?
Not for the rest of this year. We do have the group that we bike with. We've been talking about it for years, and every year we take some kind of bike trip. This year we took one to the Duluth and
way up the North Shore.
Yeah, up the North Shore to like Grand Marais, and we did that over Memorial Day weekend, which is cold and rainy, but it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. So we did that earlier, but we've been talking about this Europe trip, so we're going to do that next year.
Really?
So we can ride bikes in different places. We have a friend who lived there for a while, so she kind of knows how to plan that. So we're really looking forward to that. So smaller trips until then.
Yeah, I would think, well, obviously you're not going to take your bike with you all the way to Europe. Right. So finding one that fits your style and how it is you like to ride is going to be a little bit of a challenge. But I'm assuming they've got businesses over there that handle
it. It's part of the adventure. If we end up on a horrible bike, that'll be a good story to tell.
Exactly.
At this point, is it just it's a done deal that you're riding RAGBRAI next year? Is that just it's not even anything you have to talk about? You're just sitting around waiting to find out where the route is?
Yeah. And we were both involved in planning for the 2019. So
and it started here.
Yeah,
that was like 47, maybe 48 or so. But we were on the route planning committee, which was really cool because I grew up in Walnut. And so to send RAGBRAI through Walnut, my hometown, like I get chills thinking about it because like to Robin's point, where people that come in even internationally and they're like, you're from here, to be like, I am from here. Like we were in Jerry Glenn's and it had rained all day. And we had run into these ladies and they were having a great time. And I was wearing this ridiculous cat onesie, which is now a tradition on RAGBRAI day one. And we run into them in the bar and they're like talking to this gal and they're like, oh, you have to meet this guy. He's so fun. And the lady turns around and she goes, oh, I know him. And they're like, you do? And she goes, yeah, he's my son. So they were like gabbing with my mom. But to see those people, like just the people is what's so cool. And so we have really high hopes that Council Bluffs will get the bid in and be successful to kick it off next year, maybe without all the rain.
Yeah.
So, hopefully without all
If you have a leak, a clogged drain, or even if you're planning a big remodel, Waldstein Plumbing in Council Bluffs has you covered. With fast, reliable service and expert craftsmanship, handling everything from small repairs to major installations. They're locally owned and trusted and take pride in doing the job right the first time. Residential or commercial, big or small, when plumbing problems strike, they're the ones to call. Visit waldsteinplumbing.com. Technology should work for you, not against you. At ThinkSpace IT, they provide expert IT solutions to keep your business running smoothly and securely. From cybersecurity and cloud services to network management and tech support, they simplify IT so you can focus on what matters most. Stay protected, stay connected, stay ahead. Visit ThinkSpaceIT.com. Service Master Restore by Schmader knows it can be hard to get things back to normal when you've suffered serious property damage due to flooding, fire, or smoke, and that can oftentimes lead to mold, and you may be left with all sorts of questions about how to get your home or business back to normal. It's easy. You give Cindy Schmader a call with Service Master Restore by Schmader. Her phone number, 402-339-9911.
Last time that they actually ran a pump with water over the pedestrian bridge so people could put their tire in that way?
I think so, because
Yes, there was flooding, so they didn't want people down at
Right.
River's Edge Park. So yeah,
Yep.
I think it was the Puck County Conservation,
Yeah,
Maybe
could have been
conservation.
Hawaii Conservation, yeah.
or maybe it's
Foundation.
it was the Community Foundation.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what it was. Yeah. So they had a pool and they had people like,
Yep.
oh, you could come dip your tire. This is actually water from the river, so it counts.
Yeah, it does count, absolutely. And you're right. We haven't had it here in Council Bluffs for a little while, so it'd be fun to have it back again.
Yeah.
Get an extra 25,000 people in town, or whatever, you know,
Right.
whatever that limit happens to be. I know
Yeah.
there's, you don't always know how many because not everybody registers.
Exactly.
So-
Exactly. And people come on and come off. And I remember right that for the 50th, when we went through Des Moines, they said that like they estimated maybe 100,000 people got out. Am I
And
remembering
maybe
that correctly?
I want to say they said that there was at least 50,000
Okay.
riders that were riding through, but I think the amount of people that were there is just.
But then you pull like from Omaha, you know, when you're here. And that's another thing that's hard to describe to people that haven't done it. They're like, oh, so it's a race. And it's like, no, it's not a race. It's summer camp for adults. And it's whatever you want it to be. What do you need it to be?
It's a state fair on a bicycle.
Yeah. And so, you know, we love seeing live music. And so Iowa Falls last year, I think was maybe the first time that I actually skipped out on riding. I sat out that day. It was really hot and there was like a 30-mile-an-hour headwind and it was 70 miles almost straight south. And I'm like, I'm not going to miss this band. They weren't a cover band, so they don't get top billing. So they were playing at like 5 and I'm like, I'm going to sit out and sit in the pool. So we went and we saw this band. I texted a friend that I was working with. I'm like, have you ever heard of these guys? And he goes, I used to play in my parents' basement with him and his brother growing up in Superior, Wisconsin. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, why aren't you out on the route? You know,
Was that at the band shell in Iowa Falls? Was it in the park or was it inside?
Is this on the main
It was on
street?
the main street.
Oh, they just did it on the, okay.
Yeah, they had the end stage set up for the overnight entertainment. So.
Yeah, usually they just put everybody over in the park.
Yeah.
And because years ago when I was working in Iowa Falls and RAGBRAI came through, that's what they did. And people were just lined up everywhere. And that's probably why they don't do it there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It overwhelmed the park.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you just get so many people in there. But it's, what a better way to see Iowa. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine what it would be. You know, we stopped in Harlan on day 1, right? We went Ottawa to Harlan. And we were cruising down. I had done a little bit of research ahead of time. My 3rd grade teacher I knew she lived in Harlan, and I was reasonably sure she still did. And so I had tried to call the landline that week, and I couldn't get it to ring through. But we were riding into where our host's house was, and I'm like, this is where she lives. It's a block away. So we went up and we knocked on the door.
Dirty and sweaty and
terrible. And no one answered. And we're like, okay, well, we tried and we walked around and we're like, that door looks like the main one. So we went and we rang the doorbell, no answer, rang it again, no answer. I'm like, I'll try one more time. So I answered it. And her husband answered. And I said, is she here? Is Mrs. Wilson here? I'm a student of hers from about 30 some years ago. And he goes, well, she's disabled. So let me check, if she'll take a visitor. And she did. And we ended up hanging out for almost 2 hours.
oh yeah, we were there for 2 hours. They gave us peaches. They cut up a watermelon for us. They're like, do you want a baked potato?
Yeah, they were trying to feed us shrimp. And it was just like, you know, I hadn't seen her since, I don't know, maybe junior high. But like this was, I grew, 20 kids in the class at the time. And like, this is just an educator who had like such a profound influence on me and things that I think about all the time. And, it can be, really ugly, like in social media and things like that. And, you hang on to like these like bright spots. And that was something that I really wanted to see, I wanted to see if she was still around and just kind of tell her, like, hey, I still think about you and I still think about things that we learned. And you know, to be out on RAGBRAI, and she was able to take us as visitors. But like that was a microcosm of what I think is one of my favorite parts of the route is just you're out there and, you know, people are just so hospitable and people are so kind and people are so open to like, do you need help? Do you need anything at all? And, you know, you get that across the state from river to river. And so what else, like, where else could you do that? Where else could you go and be like, do you mind if I like get a little water off of your spigot here? Can I just lay under your tree for a minute? Cause I just need a break. Yeah. Do you want to come in? It's just great. It's hard to describe that. Like what else do you have to compare to?
I do a lot of hiking. And in that particular world, we call those people trail angels because somebody, and I did this once, I spent the entire day on the Appalachian Trail. I'm gassed. I've got nothing left in the tank and I'm pretty close to where my car is. And a guy said, "Hey, do you want a bottle of water?" And he had water in an ice cooler you know, out on there on the trail, just giving it to people as they were coming by. And I said, oh man, it's so when you experience that, and it's the same kind of thing on RAGBRAI, when you experience that kind of hospitality from people, it does a lot for your soul.
It does. It's just reaffirming.
And now we have, when you asked about like what have you done differently, what have you learned, we were camping in the main campgrounds, and now a few years ago we started riding with a team here based out of Council Bluffs, and we bought a trailer, we rent a van, and now we find our own host homes along the way. And some of the people that we have met, we've been doing that for 3 years now.
Yep.
And the people that we have met are just wonderful. They open their homes to us. This year we had one stop where she sent us this Google Doc, this long, and kept adding to it. What do you guys like for drinks? What would you choose for food if you could pick? What kind of laundry detergent do you use? We're gonna wash your clothes. We got there and she had everything perfectly laid out. She had a towel and a washcloth for all 12 of us. She made dinner. It was just, she said, "Oh, by the way, I also have t-shirts for you. Can I do your laundry?" It was wonderful. And we've met so many people like that they're like, "Come into our house, use our shower. I'll make you dinner. Set your tents up in my yard, sleep in my house. We have extra beds."
And they're just like any of us who always have things going on, and you never know like what life is going to throw at you. So like we know because they've told us some of these hosts are going through things, like they're experiencing hardships, and life isn't always, you know, as fun as it might seem on RAGBRAI. And still these people like let us into their homes and welcome the distraction from, you know, whatever that day to day is. And for them to share these things with us, it's like you're in places maybe you've never been before, and you're getting there on a bike, but it feels like home. And that's, how do you describe that? You know, how do you put that into words? How do you illustrate that for people? It's you experience it and you just hold on to that because it is really just lovely.
I can't think of a better way to wrap up. Cole, Robin, thank you so much. When I was hoping to hear stories of RAGBRAI, this was what I wanted to hear. So
Great.
Thank you very much for coming in and doing this. Also, thank you for watching this episode of Council Bluffs Today, presented by Waldstein Plumbing. If you click like, share, follow, or even subscribe, that helps the algorithm, pushes this information out even further, and more folks around the area can hear about our little corner of the world here. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you for watching. My name is Todd Studer, and we'll see you next time.